Well, the NBA gets its Game 7, something every league wants. Pacers, Thunder, Game 7 will be Sunday night. It should be a lift to the substandard ratings the series has received. It's clearly what the NBA and Disney wants and needs, and it will be the first NBA Game 7 since 2016. And this is your Morning Buzzcast for Friday, June 20th. I'm Abe Madkour. Good to be back on the Buzzcast after being in Orlando, Chicago, LA, and Washington, D.C. over the last 10 days or so. And on Wednesday night in Washington, SBJ, we held one of our tastemakers and trendsetters dinners. That's where we have about 25 leaders in sports sit around the table for an off-the-record conversation about the latest issues in the sports business. Guess what the first topic of conversation was? You got it. Mark Walter's purchase of the Lakers, a really shocking deal that valued the Lakers at $10 billion. It was really an offer that Jeannie Buss could not refuse at a time when the Buss family was looking at estate planning and had begun to contemplate a sale. But remember, the Buss family will retain roughly 15% of the team. The late Jerry Buss, someone who I wish I always had a chance to meet, purchased the Lakers in 1979 with the NHL's Kings and the Great Western Forum for about $67 million. And this latest deal for the Lakers, of course, doesn't include Crypto.com Arena. The Lakers don't own that building. In 2021, Mark Walter and Todd Boehly purchased 27% stake in the Lakers from Phil Anschutz, along with the right of first negotiation for a majority investment in the team. So it was widely believed that Mark Walter would eventually be majority owner. And for that $10 billion figure, here's how Bill Simmons broke it down. Mark Walter's group ended up paying about $6.15 billion for 75% majority of the Lakers. The rest owned by the Buss family and other limited partners, and that's how you get to the $10 billion valuation. And why shouldn't Mark Walter be a successful steward of the Lakers? He has proven himself to be one of the most successful owners in sports. Very strong leader at the Dodgers. He'll bring much of his operating philosophy to the Lakers, which is an incredible brand, but some believe the Lakers brand can be even further amplified and marketed. So we know Mark Walter believes in sports. He has the Dodgers, the Sparks. He owns the PWHL. His TWG Sports owns Cadillac team in Formula One. He will also spend money, not just on players, but across an organization. It's a fact that the Dodgers have one of the largest analytical departments in baseball and also one of the largest scouting staffs in baseball. So he invests across the organization, and he also is a big believer in investing in facilities. They have spent a lot of money to update and modernize Dodger Stadium on both the player side and the fan-facing side. So we know he will modernize the Lakers operation. He wants to win. He'll be aggressive in extending the Lakers brand. And here's what else we know. He doesn't meddle in personnel. He hasn't been involved in baseball decisions, but he lets his people like Andrew Friedman over baseball, Stan Kasten over the entire organization, Lon Rosen over the business and marketing. He lets them do their job, but certainly holds them accountable. Now, it'll be interesting to see what kind of changes Walter wants to make in the front office, but Jeannie Buss, of course, remains in the operation and will be the operating governor of the team for the foreseeable future. So we had the Lakers sale on Wednesday. We have the Rays on the market for about $1.7 billion. We have John Fisher looking to sell the MLS Earthquakes. So are some owners thinking about cashing out? Perhaps, as the market right now is very, very frothy. But each of these situations are different. Here's one fact that is very clear. The number of individuals who can write a check to buy an NBA or NFL team continues to narrow. So you're going to see more investment groups and private equity invest in sports teams. The Lakers' valuation is almost a full $4 billion more than what a group agreed to pay for the Celtics just a couple of months ago, and neither team owns their own venue. And we know the NBA is set to start a new media deal, which will be a huge benefit to all the teams, and I'm sure is driving much of the decision-making around the Celtics and the Lakers. When it comes to the Rays, it's been reported that the club would remain in Tampa Bay under a new owner with a new ballpark to be built with sites in Tampa and St. Pete still being considered. So what's driving a sale? Well, we have noted more and more pressure on Stu Sternberg. He bought the team in 2004, and there have been widely reported accounts that baseball wants him to sell because the league office and other owners don't believe Sternberg has the ability to get a ballpark deal done in Tampa with local officials. There is a lot of mistrust and ill will between ownership and local leaders, and the belief is there would not be support to get a new ballpark if Stu Sternberg remains as owner. As one local columnist wrote, John Romano from the Tampa Bay Times, who has followed this story for years, he wrote, the team needs to build a new ballpark in a hurry, but there will be no public money for Stuart Sternberg to build one. So selling the team to a new owner could be a path forward for the Rays to remain in Tampa Bay. Let's move on from team ownership issues, but I do want to talk about news that will have people talking today and onward, and that is the Dodgers said that it asked U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE agents, to leave Dodger Stadium grounds after they arrived at a parking lot near one of the gates on Thursday. Now, there are different accounts of what actually was the aim of the effort and what actually happened, but the bottom line is that many fans have expressed real concern of attending sports events for fear of ICE officials being present and conducting immigration reviews. So this is a real issue, and this is one that team leaders across sports are talking about and reviewing and thinking through. Let's put a bow on the Stanley Cup final. Congrats to the Florida Panthers. Remember, they won Team of the Year at the Sports Business Awards, and yes, there was some surprise by them winning. But this team is now back-to-back Stanley Cup champs, and what they have done on the business side is just remarkable. Now, despite what was regarded as some of the best hockey on the ice in a long time, Panthers-Oilers was not a huge hit with viewers. It ended up being the least watched Stanley Cup final on U.S. airwaves since the pandemic of 2020, and outside of that, it's the least watched Cup final since 2007. So the six-game series averaged about 2.5 million viewers. That's according to SBJ's Austin Karp. That is down 40% from the same matchup last year. Last year, it was on ABC, and that also had 7 games to that series. Now, to be fair, all 6 nights of Cup final coverage of Panthers-Oilers won the night across all of TV among young adult demos, 18 to 34, 18 to 49. So that is a healthy story. And NHL officials, they won't fret over these numbers. Would they have liked them higher? Of course. Will this impact ad rates for next year? Yes, of course. But it's not an indictment or a threat to hockey or the NHL. Every once in a while, you get matchups that just don't draw. And much like the NBA Finals this year, that seems to be the case with the Stanley Cup final between the Oilers and the Panthers. While I was traveling and having a lot of meetings, there was a lot of conversations about growth sports. One clear growth sports, women's volleyball. Yes, it's quite fragmented. There are a couple of different leagues, so you have to wonder if there is consolidation in the future. But one league, League One Volleyball, or LOVE, announced a new team with some really strong financial backing, as Bolt Ventures, which is David Blitcher's group, Spurs Sports and Entertainment, who we know are successful stewards of the Spurs, and G9 Ventures will be the ownership group of its new pro team in Austin, Love Austin Volleyball. So they will become team owners and hold equity in the overall league. Now, terms were not disclosed, but this is the first private ownership group in this 8-team league. The other teams were all owned by the league. So this is more of a franchise model, and they do have some heavy hitters with David Blitzer and Peter Holt. So obviously, these type of individuals who make big investments and generally very smart investments see real growth potential to women's volleyball and believe in it enough to add it to their sports portfolio. So this is certainly a shot in the arm for Love. And finally, if you're in New York and you go to Fanatics Fest this weekend, let me know how it is. This is year 2 of Fanatics Fest New York. It's a 3-day event that really celebrates all things sports. It's at the Javits Center in Manhattan, and this year is bigger than last year. Attendance expected to exceed 100,000 people. That will top last year's 70,000. There are single-day tickets at $69. Autographs can be purchased. There are more activations and new leagues and governing bodies involved. You have F1 this year. You have FIFA, the Premier League. They are new to this show. It'll be interesting to see how the next few days play out. We know there will be a ton of star power, a lot of PR around this. Fanatics CEO Michael Rubin launched this event last year. He said he lost $15 million on last year's event. And while I'm sure they want to improve on that figure and lose less money, this is a big marketing 3-day vehicle for Fanatics, and this is still a company that generates more than $10 billion a year in revenue, so they're still doing quite well. But Fanatics Fest New York this weekend in Manhattan. And that is your Morning Buzzcast for Friday, June 20th. I'm Abe Madkour. Thanks for listening. Stay healthy. Be good to each other. I'll speak to you next week.